Hello everyone and welcome back to Ushanka Show. In today's video we continue our review of the criminal case number 9902 for Kulikova Antonina Petrovna, who was sentenced on the Article 121 of Criminal Code of Russian Soviet Federation. Article 121 is pretty much telling other people state secrets or providing information that you were not allowed to. She was a secret informant of the MGB, Ministry of State Security. Although, as we discussed earlier, in a document, it's actually called Народный комиссариат государственной безопасности, so the folder still from the old company, we could say, People's Commissariat of State Security, but we already have a Ministry of State Security in 1948. But before we begin, I would like to thank everyone who helped me to cover my expenses in purchasing these MGB files. I spent $150 and quite a few of my viewers generously helped me with this purchase. You can also support my work by using that little heart with the dollar sign, a so-called super thank, or also you can use PayPal. Thank you so much. I appreciate your support. And now let's go back to the files. This criminal case was started on May 12, 1948 and was finished pretty quick in July 16, 1948. So in 2 months, pretty much it started from her arrest, interrogations, and to her sentencing. And it's a pretty small case because it just says it's only one issue in one volume. So some of them probably had longer. So that's what we're looking at. And this is video number 3. If for any chance you missed my previous 2 videos, I'll post the link below in the comment section. And this is her mug shots. So it looks like they didn't hold anything in front of them. It just was added later. So that's her name again, Kulikova, her fingerprints. And I need to look it up right now to see the distance between Kazan. That's the place of her birth, where she used to live in the Kazan region. And she ended up in Vyborg, which is north, I believe, of Leningrad, St. Petersburg. And during World War II, during German occupation, this is how they end up going from Vyborg to Tallinn, the capital of Estonia. At that time Estonia, but then Estonian Soviet Socialist Republic again. Okay, so I just checked on Google Maps, and the distance between Kazan, Russia, and Vyborg, which located on the border with Finland, is about 1,000 miles. So obviously this lady moved not on her own. She was a part of the government program of repopulating territories. So since Vyborg got occupied by Red Army, many Finnish people left. So they had empty town. So they were encouraging Soviet citizens to move to Vyborg, and she was one of those people. Okay, and now we return to her protocol doprosa, so that's the record of her interrogation, which began on May 11th, 1948 at 9:30 p.m. and continued to the next day and was finished on May 12th at 13:10, which is 1:10 p.m. So for 2 days she had this interrogation, and this is where we stopped in my previous video. But before we begin, I would like to point out some little detail that I missed last time. So in the top left corner, there's a printed words, says «Показания обвиняемого». So that's information that accused was given, but someone changed обвиняемого to свидетеля. So it says, so it's the witness information. So she's going, this interrogation, they're looking at her as a witness, not person that being accused of crime. So this is really interesting. She still got sentenced, but her interrogation, she was a witness. So they were gathering information on other people, and Kulikova was here as a witness, свидетель. Alright, so back to Kulikova's interrogation. I believe we stopped somewhere here. So there's a question about where did you live during the Great Patriotic War of 1941-1945. And they know all this information, because if she was their secret informant, I bet you all that information was already collected from her. But they go through all these motions, asking her questions, and she replies that before a Nazi Germany attack on the Soviet Union, it's quite official terminology here. I lived in the town of Vyborg, and I worked at the buffet of the military repair facility on August 23rd, 1941. Due to the front approaching Vyborg, I moved out towards Leningrad together with my relatives of my sister's husband. So they boarded the steamship, but they didn't make it to Leningrad. Leningrad never got occupied, but they never made it to Leningrad, and they stayed on the occupied territory in Leningradskaya region. So that was how she ended up being in German hands, we'll say it. And that was a black mark for many people for many years after the end of the World War II, or Great Patriotic War, because every paperwork you file, there'll be a question: did you ever live on the occupied territories? And if you reply yes, there will be a different look at you, and there's many jobs that you will be able to get if you happen to live on the Germany occupied territories. And then, of course, her signature in the end that everything is correct. Then in October of 1941, she ended up being moved. She said etapировana, so that's like she was the part of some group that Germans were moving around to the town of Gdov. I didn't have a chance to look it up. And in Gdov, she received the pass for traveling to Estonia. And in November of 1941, she arrived to the town of Narva. In Narva, she started working as domrabotnica, so just like a housekeeper, to Estonian person Embrich Boris Ivanovich, who lived at such and such address, and she worked there till 1943. So she actually got a pretty decent job, being just a homemaker, and actually living in an apartment with that person. And she said, проживая на квартире, so living in his apartment. In summer of 1943, I got a job at the local factory, some kind of manufactura. It's hard to read this handwriting. So anyway, making like consumer goods, and that's why she worked as a черная рабочая. So just like doing anything, you know, labor, manual labor, up to February of 1944. So probably the guy didn't have money to pay her to be a housekeeper. He still allowed her to live in his apartment, but then she had to start working. Then in February of 1944, together with the family of this guy, they moved from Narva to Tallinn. So I assume that's the Red Army was approaching Estonia. So they were moving away from the front. And she said, while living in Tallinn for several months, once again she worked as a черная рабочая, so just like a manual labor worker. Not sure what this place. It's hard to read. So she explains the different positions that she worked. As a cleaning lady, so pretty much she ended up working in different manual labors in Tallinn. And this is the end of the page. And pretty much she stayed when the Germans left Tallinn. So next question right here is, what have you been doing into the after-war period? And reply, once again, it's so interesting. She replies in such a patriotic way, you know, I guess trying to make some kind of last second impression. Со дня освобождения частями советской армии города Таллина от немецко-фашистских захватчиков. So it's almost just sounded like a Soviet radio. From the day of freeing city of Tallinn by the Soviet army troops from the German fascist occupiers, and so that's November 12, 1944, I lived in Tallinn and didn't work anywhere. Then I started working at the main hospital of the North Baltic Fleet, where I worked where I work now as the clinical lab person. So, you know, there's a lab test, and I guess she's taking, you know, samples of blood, urine, or whatever. And together with that position, I also work from the May of 1947. I work in some medical, another medical facility, another military outfit, Pagranatriada, so the border patrol number 106. And this is underlined, it's interesting. So it's right here, it says that she works Санчасть Погранотряда номер 106. So she also worked at that location. So North Baltic Fleet, and also she's working at the, like a hospital for the border troops. And that's for some reason was signed. So this is important information. So interrogator used a red pencil to kind of mark that part. All right, so now we get to business. Question: какой сектантской общине вы принадлежите? To what type of sextant community do you belong? So sextant, like a religious sect community. And she replies, I belong to so evangelical Christian community located at this address, street, Cottle Street, house number 92, where Simanov Georgi is kind of like their priest. The next question: do you belong to illegal organization Единение в Христе, Unity in Christ? And she replies, in illegal organization Unity in Christ, I never belonged to, and never was part of it. So she's definitely fighting that thing. So I just flipped the page and she continues, but I learned about his organization in the winter of 1946. So next question right here. How did you learn about existence in Estonia of illegal organization Unity in Christ? Answer. In the winter of 1946, I left, and that's an interesting phrase, заготовки продуктов питания. So they left Tallinn to get some food items, and can't say where she was. It's hard to. Pustoveri. So she's somewhere out in the country, some village, and they stayed overnight at the Estonian lady. Can't really read her name here. And that's when she gave her for reading book, religious magazines that were printed in Potsdam. So it was printed in Germany by the Estonian bourgeois government. So even Estonia was occupied by the Soviets. They still had Estonian government in exile, and I guess they were publishing these religious books. After reading several articles in these magazines, I realized so there was this organization, Unity in Christ, that she existed, and those articles that she read, they were anti-Soviet propaganda, and not only religious information. So she just kind of plays along like, this is how I learn about it, and this is what I realized, that they're more anti-Soviet than just a religious organization. That'll be interesting to look it up, this Unity in Christ. Let's see the whole new can of information we can open. Next question right here. Do you know anybody from the management or members of illegal organization Unity in Christ? So look at that. They keep on repeating this illegal organization. And she replies, from the management of illegal organization Unity in Christ, I know the following people. And then she started giving names of the people. Smirnov and his wife. And something was not corrected here, so she signed below that the word was changed to Jana. So she said one word and then she said corrected herself, so she confirmed yes, this was a different word. So it's interesting bureaucracy here of interrogation. So Smirnov and his wife Natalia organizers of illegal organization Unity in Christ. All right, go on to the next page. All right, so we're on page 14 of this interrogation. So in 1937, they left for Sweden, and at current time they maintain correspondence, so письменная связь, so by letters, with people who live in Tallinn. And then she goes names, can read the name, Van Gust Johanna. And I learn about it from the words of another person, some Elizaveta. Next person, so that's this Van Guste Johan. So during the Great Patriotic War, he was in the Soviet Union, so he was not in the occupied territories, and from there he brought a Russian woman that he lives with. So then provides information. Oh, plenu, maybe he was maybe it's the word plien, so maybe he was captured. I'm not sure, this is the word I can't read what it says. Something, he was in USSR. And he brought a Russian woman with him and lives with her right now. He doesn't have a high education. Yeah, I don't know who's personally. And once again, I learned from him from the words of this Elizaveta Pente. Is a regular member of the illegal organization Unity in Christ. I know the following people, and she goes through somebody Evald during the Great Patriotic War. He was fighting, находился на фронте, and the current time he lives in some kind of region, Verusky Uyezd. I met him only once in the apartment of Tenta. I know him as a member of underground organization. So she calls it подпольная организация. He used the legal, now it's a подпольная underground organization, Unity Christ. About his враждебная деятельность. Wow, there's whole words here. Враждебная деятельность is like enemy activity in this organization. I'm gonna flip the page. Okay, so she doesn't know anything about his any bad activities. Then she continues, second person, last name, first name Foma, age of 70. He worked in 1946. Look like at railroads. Don't know anything about his враждебная деятельность. So she names people but claims that she doesn't know anything about their illegal activities. It's almost like enemy activities. Then another Katyukova Anastasia. So she just goes through the list of different people that she knows they're part of this organization Unity in Christ. So we just skip all that. Next question right here. With whom from the mentioned above people do you continue to keep in touch, or used to keep in touch? And she replies here, from the named above people, I used to talk and still talk with this one lady, T.S. Elizaveta. So she's like friend with her, I guess, and with the rest of the people I don't stay in touch. And next question. Whom from those people did you tell about your cooperation with the state security? So that's the next page. So here we got the scariest part, questions. Whom did you tell that you cooperate with the MGB state security? And she replies, and you see they consider this is all important answers now. They all got it marked. So while cooperating with the state security in the beginning of 1945, so this is 1948, 3 years later. So for 3 years, she was telling people, hey, I'm working for state security, so you gotta be careful when you're around me because I have to report. So she said, in the beginning of 1945, I нарушила данную мной подписку о неразглашении. So she signed a paper with state security for not telling anyone what she was doing, and she said, I broke that promise that I signed, and I told my сожительница по квартире, so she shared the same apartment with this some lady that went to the same this religious община, evangelic. So she was part of another religious group, and she told the lady that she lived with that she was informant. And the name of the lady, Maria Georgievna, tells the address. So I told them that I was called to the MGB offices where I gave my agreement to help them in finding any враждебно настроенной к советской власти. Oh my goodness. So anyone who is doesn't like, has like a enemy attitude towards the Soviet government among the members of that religious organization, which we call Sextanti, and that I gave them my signed agreement about a secret cooperation. So here we go. This is when she admits. So for 3 years she was telling people, she's actually, you can say, like this silent hero, that she was warning people right away from the early 1945 that, hey, they made me to cooperate with them, they made me sign the paper of secret cooperation, so you need to watch out what you're talking around me. So, and here her signature, and it says that interrogation was stopped at 1:20 in the morning on the 12th, and it continued at noon on the 13th. So we're gonna do that in my next video, but here you go. This is her crime. She was called into the MGB office. She was forced into cooperation, and then right away she was telling people for 3 years that she was a secret informant of the state security of the Soviet Union. Okay, so this concludes part 3 of my videos about criminal case of 9902 for Kulikova Antonina Petrovna, who was arrested back in 1948 for telling her fellow religious members that she was a secret agent of MGB, Ministry of State Security. Thank you so much for watching Ushanka Show. We'll talk to you soon. До свидания. Goodbye.